Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get started? Thank you everyone for joining the session. My name is Amit Mistry again from NIH. We have 3 presenters. We're looking for our 3rd presenter right now. He might have gone to a different breakout room. But basically the way this works, we're going to ask each of our presenters to just share around 5 to 7 minute presentation about their organization. And then the rest of the time is really informal Q&A and discussion with the group. And so if you have questions throughout, please feel free to use the chat. And in the meantime, we'll jump right into our presenter. So we'll start with Rob Bayer with Vilgra Africa. I asked you to just introduce yourself, share a bit about your organization, and you're welcome to share your screen if you wish. Over to you, Rob.
Great. Thanks, Amit. And Dr. Dio, can you please turn on your screen and say hello too? We're from Vilgra Africa. We'll share a little bit about our learnings. I'm currently in Canada, but we lived 20 years in Kenya and heading back there in June. Yeah, it's great to be here today. Dr. Dio, please do a quick intro.
Yes, my name is Dr. Dio Gratias. My background is in applications of artificial intelligence in healthcare. I am an AI sector lead at Vilgra Africa. Happy to be here.
Great, thank you. And we're going to share a brief presentation about our work in the sector. But before we do, we work with largely private sector actors. So, Vilgra Africa, we're an early stage impact investor, usually first money in, and we deploy capital to innovative ideas. We're those that take a high risk and try to source the best ideas that have the largest impact. We're in our 8th year. We've deployed around 2.1 million, and our companies have got on to raise an additional 22 million. We don't just deploy capital, we do a lot of technical support for the groups that we fund. And so we really walk the journey with them, we partner with them. And so we do screening and selection, technical assistance, seed capital. We have a lot of thematic calls, and we're going to talk about that today, 2 calls that we've had. We do a lot with academia and research. We fund with what we call impact vouchers, and we do funding of researchers that work with startups there as well. And we have an advisory arm for market entry support. And so one way to view us is we're a not-for-profit venture capital, if you could imagine that. So we deploy capital, we treat it like venture capital, but we're a not-for-profit. So we really want our groups that we deploy to grow and develop and raise more funding or more revenue. And so this is a little bit about our model. I'll turn it over to Dr. Dio to talk about our 2 calls of what we've done in this space. We're really excited about it. It's our high growth area of the company. And over to you, Dr. Dio, to share a little bit about our calls.
All right, thank you very much, Rob. So 2 years ago, we did our first call, and we think it was one of the unique AI calls in Africa to support innovations in artificial intelligence, especially in the private sector. As we all know, most of the funding coming into Africa have been going into academic universities, and very little into the private sector, which we think there's a lot of things happening there. So 2 years ago, we did our first call where we received more than almost 200 applicants, but we ended up supporting few of them, 12 of them, and they are wide from healthcare into agriculture. You can see some of them which are already here. Some were actually doing even brain tumor detection using MRI image. Some were doing screening of breast cancer, somewhere in the agriculture sector. So we ended supporting 12 companies. But from that call, we came to learn some of the very unique things which were affecting AI in the private sector in Africa, which mostly was there were very few women involvement in the sector, and also most of the applications were going into the healthcare sector. And also another thing which we came to learn is some of the companies, they didn't really know about the responsible AI. So they are just teaching themselves about artificial intelligence in their bedrooms, as very few universities in Africa offer AI-related courses. So based on that learning, we did another call at the end of last year, and we wanted to implement the things which we found from our previous call. And from this application, we received around over 200 applications from more than 20 African countries. And you can see some of the companies which we selected, 10 of them, which are now part of our training this year. And we are going to support them financially, technically, to make sure the solutions that they are developing are going to be implemented and impact the healthcare sector in the continent. And we are happy to have more partners on this year call. And these partners will help us to address the learning which we did from the previous call, especially on the responsible AI. So we are going to support these companies to make sure the data set which they are collecting is going to be ethically collected, and even the solutions that they are developing, they are going to have positive impact on the humankind. We want their solutions to be explainable. That if an algorithm says someone has cancer, it has to explain as a radiologist does. And also the data set should be collected ethically, and we have to make sure these solutions are human-centered and secured. And some of the 4 principles under the responsible AI, which we've just explained, and we are going to make sure we implement in this year call, is underscore fairness. The algorithms which are going to be developed, they should be fair. There should be transparency and explainability, privacy and security, and also human-centeredness. Back to Europe.
Thanks, and we'll just take just a last minute to talk about some general observations, which is going to be no surprise, I think, to this crowd. But there, what we observed is a general lack of understanding of what constitutes AI. I'm not going to camp on that. I think people on this call probably get that. We've seen everything that just because it uses a computer doesn't mean it's AI. To those that have maybe large data analysis but are not using machine learning. And so there's that lack of awareness of ethical issues, which Dr. Dio just spoke about, the need for responsibility. But among the private sector, there's strong promise towards scale and impact. People are working on very interesting things, very impactful things, and we're really pleased to be able to support them. There really is the quest to monetize data, more so than ever. This comment came from our first call in 2022 and 2023. Our team is more laser focused than ever, that a lot of focus is growing tremendously thanks to DSI Africa and AI4D from IDRC. There's a tremendous amount of focus on local data. The algorithms and models are important, but the access to a steady pipeline of data is I'll say gold. It's what people are looking for. There's a threat or opportunity of big tech, so larger players are entering the space and are definitely interested, and that's more than ever there. And now this last point, I think DSI Africa and AI4D and others are really solving the general lack of cohesion. This comment came in 2021. I think now we almost need to strike it because there's way more cohesion now. Thank you, Amit, for the opportunity, and we'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you, Dr. Dio, as well. At this point, if you have questions, please feel free to use the chat. But I do want to give a chance for Dr. Thomas Mubao to speak about Mubao Lab. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing, but could you please introduce yourself and go ahead with your presentation? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I will share my screen quickly. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. Now. Yes, I'm Thomas, I'm Cameroonian, and currently I'm a research for CEMIA. CEMIA is a Centre d'Expertise International de Montréal and Intelligence Artificielle. So I'm calling from Canada actually, but I founded the Mubao Lab in 2017. And Mubao Lab is a makerspace specialized in biotechnology. So if some people are not familiar with the concept of makerspace of Fab Lab, it's just a collaborative space where you can find some digital equipment that people can use. It's a community space, and it has been shown that it accelerates innovation through open source enabling technology. So basically, that is how I founded the Mbwalab in 2017. And is part of the fourth industrial revolution through the local digital manufacturing and the smart factory specifically, where you can find things like big data, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and so on. We at the Mbwalab, we are specialized on synthetic biology or molecular biology. That is what we are doing. And our activities are around workshop, open design, open hardware design, research project, because we are doing a lot of research development for local universities and other partners across the world in the field of molecular biology. And yes, here you can see some of the tools that we build, some of our activities. And here also we succeed. We have many collaboration with organizations like Mozilla, GOSH, and so on, to try to build locally equipment that not which are very difficult to find or to access. So that is the main mission of the Mbwalab. But aside this, also we succeed, which is very difficult in our context, to produce locally bioreagents, specifically enzymes that we are selling actually across Cameroon and Africa. So here is some of our projects. But today, I really want to focus on what our program on AI applied to health, which is something that we launched since a program that we launched since 2020, and it's here. For example, tomorrow they will release the information, but this is just you are part of the top 100 early stage project, and the information will be released tomorrow. But basically, what we are doing with data and AI as biologists or molecular biologists is we are trying to build point of care testing. So that is how since 2020 we started with microscopy in collaboration with Bath University. We designed a microscope using 3D printer, and we adapt it, the Raspberry Pi in, so that data can be collected across, even in rural zone where there is no electricity, and we share with other practitioners across the country or Africa. So then we joined the outreach community. I don't know if you are aware of the outreach community, where we used to host interns coming from all the world. They are coming from India, they are coming from, so they have like a kind of 8 weeks internship with us to develop our project, and they are paid through the outreach, which is funded by I think the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, also Google and other big companies. So through this program, we succeed to work on project like the Open Disease Screener, the Open Science to improve the breast cancer diagnostics through artificial intelligence. We create a platform to facilitate the link up with medical facility globally. And yes, basically that is some program that we succeed to do through the Mbwalab. And I share the link with you on the website on what we have done so far. All what I'm explaining about our program, I'm putting again the link in the chat, so that people can directly go there. I'm sorry for my English because I'm French speaking by training. But just to let also know that you can find 2 papers on Nature, the magazine for science, that talking about the work the Boalab is doing so far. And I will be happy to connect after with Vilgo, I think, specifically from Asemia, because we have a lot of things to do together. I remember that we applied, but I think that we have not been selected for this program. But I think on behalf of Semia, I will connect with them so that we can see what we can do together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we will have more time for questions. I see questions and discussion happening in the chat. But before the discussion, may I ask Mahadia and Davis to speak about Tanzania D-Lab? And actually, Dr. Thomas, would you stop your screen? There you go.
Yes.
Thank you. And go ahead, Mahadia and Davis.
Hello, can you see me?
Yes, we can see you. And you have about 7 minutes, so please go ahead.
Okay, can I share my presentation, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. Can you see the presentation?
No, not right now. It went away. Can you try one more time?
Okay. Right.
Is it try the share screen option in Zoom?
Yeah, I think I'm disabled. I can't share the screen. I don't know.
We saw it before, but then it came down again.
Okay.
Not sure why.
Okay.
Okay, we can.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So hi everyone. My name is David. I'm representing my coordinator, Ms. Mahadia Tunga, and we are coming from Tanzania, another organization, Tanzania Data Lab. So just a quick introduction regarding the Tanzania Data Lab. This is an NGO based in Tanzania, and we focus on data and innovation. To solve different problems global to the international levels, and our pillars for different stakeholders within the country and entrepreneurship on how we can use the data set and the business at large. We also provide data science solution that our partners want us to develop with them, and we equip youth and the women on the capacity development and how they can use data to solve different problems. So when it comes to health, and as you know, mental health is a big problem around the world, and there's a lot of statistics that show that according to WHO, around 800,000 people die due to suicide, and each person normally die after every 42nd. And one of the reasons that many people die due to suicide is a mental health problem. And in sub-Saharan countries, in Africa, the statistics show that 1 in 7 children and adolescents are struggling with mental illness, and this can be caused by different issues from society level, education level, and financial level based on the country.
Sorry, Davis, I'm sorry. The audio is cutting in and out. Could you turn off your camera?
In 5 out of 100,000 people have committed suicide. Okay. Hello?
Yeah, I just was going to say, if you can turn off your camera, it might help. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say that in Tanzania, out of 100,000 people have committed suicide because of the mental health problem in the last 5 years. So that is growing, and in Tanzania, every quarter of the month, we receive a lot of news regarding the suicide from family levels, husband and wife. This is one of the big challenges that's caused many people to commit suicide because of the mental health problem. And the reason why we still have this problem is the number of mental health experts in Tanzania are very few. As you can see, 0.5 mental health experts can able to accommodate 100,000 people in Tanzania. So we have a few shorter number of mental health experts that can at least try to provide education and help people who have mental health challenge to come out of those problems and continue their life. Yeah, and another challenge I think is we don't talk much about mental health issues in African countries. So many people don't have awareness of about depression, bipolar disorder, and the other mental health diseases. So for you, for a person to know this of time, and that's why many people are committing suicide. Maybe there's issue, but at the end of the right person to talk to, maybe are very costly for them to provide that kind of service for people who don't have enough income to support. Okay. So we believe that data science can also play a part to solve these mental health challenges. And as I said before, condition of mental health can be depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder. These are some of the data science we believe diagnosis. And through the collection of the data set, we can find some insights and patterns that can typically help this expert to identify some, to detect different issues that can relate to a specific mental health problem. We can also use data science to support decision making. Through the analysis of the data set, we can also unlock some hidden information from the data set that can assist the clinical decision making, so that people can get the right treatment at a particular time. So also we can also apply data science for treatment, that we can use it to predict the antidepressant that would work best for someone based on the analysis of data set. We can also compare maybe this kind of treatment can be we can use it to treat this person because of the condition that he has. But at D-Lab, we're able to come across this challenge, and we sit down together to discuss how we can solve it. As I said previously, that 0.5, and you can see the shortage, but through the use of chatbots, we can also use the machine and see how we can help them. So if you go to the expert right now, maybe there's a lot of people who need this kind of applications, a lot of people who need this kind of help on how they can solve mental health problems.
Davis, are you still there? We're losing your audio a little bit. Davis, can you hear me? I think we lost Davis's connection, unfortunately. Davis, can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, but can you
We-
hear you? I'm so sorry for the network issue.
No problem. But go
Okay.
ahead. If you can wrap up in the next minute or so, that would be great. That would be great.
Yeah, so we are currently developing chatbot that in Swahili language, so that we can also use it to automate the mental health assessment. So we collect some information from the user in order to understand their problem, and also we provide some kind of quick treatment for them. But we are working together with other partners, Eurotech, and Mentor's Association Tanzania, so that they can provide maybe what kind of plan that we can implement in the chatbot in order to so
Davis, I think you might need to stop your screen share. We're not able to hear you well. Okay, so I think we'll, in the interest of time, I think we need to move to Q&A, and hopefully Davis will be able to come back. Davis, are you back? Davis, can you hear me? Davis, would you mind stopping your screen share? I think that's causing some problem.
okay.
Where we keep losing your audio. Would you mind just wrapping up, Davis? We need to go to Q&A now. I apologize.
Yeah, sorry. So what I've said that we are currently working with the Mentor's Association to perform data creation on how we can respond, because currently the chatbot can collect information. So the next step is assessment. Then we can respond based on the sum of the treatment that we start to provide. But the chatbot will be in Swahili language.
Since we keep losing Davis, can I ask? We can go ahead and move into Q&A. For everyone who's in the group, please feel free to add your questions to the chat or use your raise hand function. And I'm just going back. There was a question about explainability. Is it Orabile Hope Moloka? Would you like to discuss that? I think it was a question for the Vilgro team.
Okay, can you come again, Amit?
Please, Dr. Dio. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, there was a
about
question.
explainability?
There was a question, what do you mean by explainability? And is that explaining the models themselves on how they were built and how they function, explanation of the decision-making by the model, like how they arrive at their outputs, et cetera?
Yes.
There was a question earlier in the chat. Go
Yes,
ahead.
the last part, how the model make is decisioning. Take an example of a radiologist who is doing screening of TB. When they look at that chest X-ray, they actually point out the suspected areas on that particular image. So that's the kind of things which we are encouraging the companies that we are supporting to build those kind of things. Or when you go to a bank and you are being rejected for a loan, you deserve to be told why you are rejected for that. So we want the algorithm also to explain those kind of things. Yeah.
Okay. And there was also some good discussion about monetizing data and how that conflicts with sharing of data. And I see some people put comments in the chat. I wonder if there's anything else you would like to add or anyone else would like to add on the topic.
Yes, I've already responded to that. The difference is when you are playing with data, there are different insights that you can extract from the same data. So you can collect data, put it open, someone else can come and extract a totally different insight from that particular data. So it doesn't threaten the company which originally collected the data.
Mm-hmm. I'll just add too that this is not a new thing with AI. So companies in the last 3 or 4 years have all been thinking that oh, we'll monetize our data, that someone's going to come at some point and want to buy our data. That is still not happened. Even 3 years ago, it was just an assumption in people's business models that someone's going to Google or someone's going to come along and want to have our data. I think AI brings that promise much closer. You know, just working with this in the last 2 years, there seems to be genuine interest and need to have data sets that are focused around a certain theme, but there seems to be greater willingness from companies to understand that they'll have to pay for that. Now the question is around ethics. Obviously, it's sourced, but also we're angling a lot of our companies on an open approach. So you can make the data set open and charge a licensing fee. It doesn't have to be so open. Doesn't have to mean free. Right? It can be open and available, but you license it out. You have to pay something for it, you know, and hopefully that barrier is not high, you know, but companies can consider, or if they're working on lots of amount of data, you know, they can make a subset of their data free and leverage brand awareness for that as well. So there's different approaches. But one last thing I'll say is that this is very new. This is innovative. You know, this is just happening. There's no roadmap that people can follow. There's no Google Maps people can follow to this destination of how to make money out of this. You know, we're all in it together right now, trying to figure it out together. And so it's exciting times, I think, you know, in that regard.
Yeah. You know, thank you.
Back
We
to you,
have,
Amit.
oh no, we have about 10 minutes left for discussion. We're adjusting the schedule a little bit. Dr. Thomas, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yes, one of my job actually at SEMIA is to design trustworthy data institution, to design kind of framework. And we can see that monetization can be considered like a business model or something like that. But the problem behind this is about the sharing of benefits. If a company, for example, collect data on medical data on patients and so on, and then use it for its own end without sharing the benefit behind it, this is problematic. But sometimes different stakeholders and the data institution, you understand, data stewarding data, they can find a consensus where the benefit can be shared. At this time, we can reconsider what we think, or we can reconsider what is monetization. If the benefits are socially shared, I think is something that we can see how we can balance our position about this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. This is an important topic, and I also would like to invite if Dr. Alashle Abimiku would want to comment, or J.O. Abe, if you would like to comment. Feel free to use your camera if you want, but no pressure. Would either of you like to comment?
Thanks, Amit. And maybe I'll make a quick comment. I don't have the bandwidth, so excuse me for not being on camera. But I just know that especially in the health sector, just as explained by Dr. Thomas, that there is really a friction in terms of data being collected from the community and then commercialized companies making profit out of it. But if there's that open dialogue very early on, and there is agreement in how best we can use this data, I think, you know, as Rob said, it's a new field and we'll be able to, but it will require this constant dialogue. The other factor that comes into the equation is the fact that countries actually consider this data as theirs. And so if we start this and so far science has really been pushing countries to make it freely available. So if we start this discussion about monetizing, I think we've got to do it with a great sensitivity and transparency, and understand that this is a dialogue that has to keep on going because of the different interests. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I didn't mention this earlier, but Alashle, would you mind just briefly introducing yourself, your institution as well?
Sure. I'm Alashle Abimiku. I'm at the Institute of Human Virology, Nigeria, and the principal investigator for one of the data science research hub. And we're working with South Africa and 2 institutions in the US. So this discussion was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I see that Stephen Moore has a hand raised. Go ahead, Stephen, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Stephen Moore from the University of Cape Coast in Ghana. So I particularly wanted to talk about this because we were involved in some projects where we got data and we used the data, we developed a product, and then of course we did not check the licensing. Then later, the owner of the data sent a message asking us to pull the data down. And that is what made us think about the licensing of data. So we also collected data on our own to use. And I think that this issue is really, really important because you can develop a product on a database, and then in the future, the person will come out and say, hey, please pull out the data down. And because it was because of the licensing issue that we used, it can actually change again and go against you. So maybe if we create a good market, a data market, where people can go and buy data or harness data and pay a token, because once you collect the data, you need to be continuously be working on the data. Wherever you are keeping it on a server in a cloud, you need to pay for these services. So whoever is using data always has to think about these things. Where do they save it? Where do they get the money from? How do they maintain their data sets? And when we do that, then it will help us also contribute and be willing to contribute to data collection. And one other thing was, I'm realizing also that increasingly a lot of data collection agencies are asking Africans to collect data. And I feel somehow that is at a cheaper cost, and maybe we can discuss this and put a quality costing on data sets so that people collecting data will be very engaging and will be willing to work as well in this aspect. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, can I just, Stephen, he is 100% correct. And I'm not sure if that's the role of DSI to act as an aggregator of this discussion, but this is definitely coming fast, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. And thank you, Stephen. We are running short on time and there's two more hands raised. So I'd ask you both if you could briefly comment. So we'll start with J.O. Is it Abe? Go ahead.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. And please introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm based in Istanbul. I'm a Nigerian. I like what the virologist scientist said from Nigeria. And I've been on USAID project and EU Horizon projects. What we all need to drive at and push now, for example, for Mrs. Abimiku and co, is for the government to we need a minimum of 60% of our data to be open. If we want to drive health solutions to be available and move fast, having the data will provide more solutions, better delivery, quick delivery. Even SMEs can use that data to provide solutions. But if we don't drive the government to push to pay for it, for example, MTN can take a lot of data in Africa. I'm very sure of that, because they have IoT sensors they could easily deliver from their network. That's a typical example. So part of the money that MTN pay a lot of government in Africa can be used to democratize this data so that it can be available. Of course, then comes the anonymization. You don't need to have issue if it's anonymized. Nobody will know it's from Amit or Mohammed or John or Florence, but it's available. At least you'll be able to know that this data is from, let's say, Johannesburg, for example. So I think that's part of the thing we need to drive at. And that's already going on in EU zone health projects, where you go to the site, there are open data that is available to be used for research and production. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we might have time for one more comment from Obina. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, my name is Obinume. At the moment I'm in the UK, but I'm originally from Nigeria. So the question I have is really for Rob. During his presentation, he mentioned that they did identify that the key problem they have in Africa is education, that most people that are claiming to be using the AI clearly do not understand what they are talking about. I was wondering, although you mentioned the solution you guys are proposing, but I was wondering if you can maybe add more light on that, and also to see if you have maybe identified as a solution working with some universities in Africa, because my background is in theoretical physics, and there was a time in South Africa they had big telescopes that do gather data, but they do not have the human resources to work on those data. It was around 2003 that a solution was proposed to actually train people locally to work on those things. And 20 years after, they have a fantastic human resources that are working on those things. I was wondering whether you guys have looked at issues like that.
We only have a few seconds left. Rob, do you have a
Dio,
quick comment?
yes, Dio, I'm going to pass that to you.
Yes, Obina, thank you very much for the question. I will refer from the last comment you explained about South Africa that they bought a
15 to 30, 40 patients per day if you're at a very busy hospital. And so particularly at these types of sites, it may be harder to transition to digital systems because you would have doctors, nurses who may not be able to type quickly, and this can start to worsen patient wait times. And we had a hospital where